Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for the ELNET Monday donor call. We have a lot on the agenda. As usual, we're nearing 500 days of this multi-front war that Israel's been facing since October 7th. You all know that 18 hostages in total have been released. That's 13 Israelis plus 5 Thai workers over the last 14 days. Today is the day in which the negotiations for the second phase are about to begin. Prime Minister Netanyahu is in Washington. He just announced that he will be extending his stay through the weekend, dealing with the three main topics on the table, which are Iran's nuclear program, the normalization with Saudi Arabia, which evidently seems to be closer than people think, and then the whole issue of Gaza and the post-Hamas southern front that Israel will need to deal with. But there are other issues on the table as well that we wanted to bring to your attention today, and that certainly is the future of the war in Syria, the role of Turkey, and that other side of the Sunni world, which is contending for power in the Middle East, not just the moderate, quote unquote, regimes of the Gulf and Israel's peace neighbors, but also the issue of Turkey, the role of Turkey, Qatar, and the Muslim Brotherhood network, which is also very, very dangerous. And things are up in the air in very significant ways in terms of the future of the Middle East. And we're at one of those moments in history where things could either take a very significant development in a positive way or in a negative way. We're in that nexus right now as we speak. And for this, we're very honored to have Dr. Hay Eytan Cohen with us, one of Israel's leading experts on Turkey. Mark, the floor is yours to introduce our speaker and the topic today. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, David, and hello, everybody. Welcome to Monday's briefing. Yes, today we are fortunate to have Hay Eytan Cohen Yanarocak. Hay is a scholar of modern Turkey. He is a researcher at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategic Studies and at the Moshe Dayan Center for Middle Eastern and African Research at Tel Aviv University. He's also a lecturer in the Department of Middle Eastern and Islamic Studies at the Ben Gurion University and at Ariel University. Dr. Yanarocak is the author of Evolution of the Turkish School Textbooks from Ataturk to Erdogan, published in 2022. He is the editor of the journal Turkey-Scope, Insights on Turkish Affairs. And in 2015, he was awarded the prestigious Dan David Prize for Macro History Scholarship. He is a frequent guest on Israeli and international media, where he regularly appears to discuss contemporary Turkish politics and society. Hi, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. What an honor. This is a very distinguished platform, and year after year, I'm invited, so I'm flattered. Once again, thank you very much.
Well, you have certainly been making the rounds lately. You were on Dan Senor's podcast, Call Me Back. You were on FDD's podcast with John Schanzer, and here you are in ELNET's Monday briefing to cap it all off. So again, this is it's great to have you with us today. You're not just a scholar of modern Turkey. Your family and you are from Turkey, correct?
Indeed, yes, correct.
What is your history there? Can you tell us a little bit about your family's experience and yours as well?
Of course. I was born and raised in Turkey, born in a Jewish family from both sides. Actually, we are the descendants of those Jews who were expelled from Spain in 1492. We are considered as the Sephardic Jews. I do remember very well that my grandparents always spoke in Ladino. Of course, also my parents, and my Ladino a little sucks, but nobody, can hide anything from me. I can still have a very decent conversation in Ladino, but unfortunately, I cannot lecture on that language. And I was a very conscious Turkish Jewish youngster, got the Jewish education at home. Also, I was very much affiliated with the community, Jewish high school. And since my brother made Aliyah to Israel at a very young age, so I began to visit Israel frequently, and I fell in love with this country. And that therefore, I decided to move here after concluding my BA studies in Turkey. In a nutshell, I studied political science and international relations. As a Jew in Turkey, we were well treated, but I understood my limitations, that I cannot become what I want to be in Turkey. So therefore, for me, I decided to realize my Zionist dream, and I came to Israel. Here I pursued MA and PhD degrees at Tel Aviv University. And the rest is history. You already mentioned what I did here, what I'm doing here in Israel. So thank you very much again. I hope that was not boring for you, but this is my story.
Perhaps Israel needs to now use the U.S. Army's tagline, "Be all you can be." That was a great advertisement for your future. I want to frame the Israel-Turkey relationship over the last 20 years with a few key highlights. And then I'd like to get your characterization of this relationship. So in 2006, the Israeli Foreign Ministry described Israel's relationships with Turkey as perfect. 2010, we had the Mavi Mara flotilla incident. Everybody remembers the incident where a Turkish flotilla tried to purge the blockade. Reconciliation efforts followed that. And then in 2013, Turkey and Israel agreed to normalize ties. 2016, interestingly, Turkey was responsible for NATO granting Israel permission to open up their Brussels offices. That's because Turkey removed its veto over that. In 2023, September, Prime Minister Netanyahu met with President Erdogan on the sidelines of the UNGA and said that the relationships were strengthening. That was 1 month before October 7th. And then after October 7th, Erdogan said Hamas was a liberation group waging a battle to protect its land, and then canceled his trip to Israel. Now, I'm not an academic, so I would characterize this relationship as schizophrenic. I'm sure you have a more appropriate way to describe it, but how would you characterize this relationship? And is there a difference between this new version, this new nadir, compared to previous lows in the relationship?
Okay, so in a nutshell, as the youngsters they really like to refer to the relationships with different, definitions. I would say it's complicated, right? This is a very complicated relationship. It's a fluctuating relationship. As you said, once we are experiencing a honeymoon, then unfortunately we witness a very severe deterioration in the relations. But the common denominator of all these that we are seeing, the Turkish administration is determining the rhythm of the relations. So if we always see an improvement in the relations, it is because Ankara seeks for reconciliation. Whenever we see a severe deterioration, we are aware of the fact that Israel is not attaching the quality of the relations with Ankara to the Palestinian conflict. However, on contrary to Israel's stance, unfortunately, we are seeing the exact opposite. Ankara is always attaching the quality of the relations with the state of Israel, always to the Palestinian conflict. And unfortunately, this is the most important fragility. Okay, this is the, let me say, this is the real problem that we are facing in the relations. Because if the two countries would only concentrate in their bilateral relations, this could only, lead to further and further cooperation. I would like to mention that there are many important mutual interests in the region. For instance, the Eastern Mediterranean gas, or another important opportunity is to maximize the very special bond between the State of Israel and Republic of Azerbaijan, which is considered as a Shiite Muslim country, but having a proper relationship with the State of Israel. And the same Azerbaijan, also due to its ethnic character, we are seeing that the same country has brotherly relations with Turkey. So just before the war, let me say, I was in Azerbaijan and I was working on a very important paper that we were trying to boost a new project, a triangular project between Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Israel. And unfortunately, due to this war, due to October the 7th, unfortunately, all of the article, destroyed itself because it became irrelevant because of President Erdogan's very harsh rhetoric against the state of Israel. Unfortunately, during the last year, we have seen an unprecedented deterioration in the relations. Beforehand, we were very much used to see a very pro-Palestinian Turkish foreign policy. This is not surprising us. But what is surprising us today is the current Turkish foreign policy, unfortunately, escalated to a new, to a new low, and they adopted here a very pro-Hamas stance and not only pro-Palestinian. So this is the heart of the problem. And besides that, in addition to that, Turkey is, in a gradual manner, but in a very steady manner, they intentionally deteriorated the relations. First, they imposed, they canceled the bilateral flights. Later, they imposed an economic ban against the state of Israel. All of the exports and imports to Israel and from Israel were halted. And the last but not the least, also Turkey joined to South Africa's, bid in the Hague, in the ICJ against the state of Israel. So we are seeing here a struggle in the judicial affairs, a struggle in the economic affairs, and on daily basis we are seeing that the Turkish government is delegitimizing the state of Israel day and night. So besides that, and nowadays we are also witnessing that the same Turkey is also hosting Hamas, providing them an immunity. And only 2 days ago, the Turkish foreign minister was in Doha, in Qatar, and he declared that his country's intention to host more terrorists that are going to be freed in this current deal. Of course, they are trying to portray themselves as constructive actors, as if they are trying to facilitate the implementation of this deal so that they can also use this as a fig leaf vis-a-vis the United States. Because you all know that the Trump administration will be extremely criticizing against Turkey because of this very close relationship with Hamas. But if Turkey will going to host all of these terrorists because of this current hostage deal, then Turkey would turn to Mr. Trump and would say, you know what? I understand that you are thinking that Hamas is a terrorist organization. We do not think so, but we are not hosting these people because we love them, because you wanted a deal, you pushed Israel to have the deal, and the consequences of this deal led us to host these terrorists. So you cannot be mad with us, okay? So this
let's
would be
pause there for a second.
yeah.
Before we get too far down the path with Trump and some of the strategic issues, I want to back up for a second and understand Erdogan's thinking here. It's one thing to be pro-Palestinian. It's one thing to say, I want Palestinians to have a better life. I believe they should have their own state. I'm supportive of Palestinian sovereignty. It's quite another to support an internationally recognized terrorist organization. And it doesn't stop just with Hamas, mind you. We'll get into that as well. Supporting other terrorist organizations. What is his calculation? Why is he choosing to go down that path and not the more reputable path that so many of the other Sunni states are trying to pursue?
Okay, that's a great question. The answer for it, maybe it would not be considered as a rational decision in the eyes of a Westerner or an American or an Israeli or a European, but it makes perfect sense in the eyes of a Turk or as for a Middle Eastern Arab or Persian, etc. The thing is, unfortunately, Mr. Erdogan is looking to this current conflict with an angle of the Muslim Brotherhood ideology. He is, we all know that he received a very, strong Islamist uh, education. He is politicized, and as well as, he became affiliated with the Naqshbandi Khalidi religious order, which has a very clear stance against the West. We all know his personal affiliations, but he is also known as a very pragmatic leader. In the past, if he could behave in such a way that he had a, more or less proper relationship with the state of Israel, he shook hands of the Israeli president. We all said that he's a pragmatic leader. But the thing is, what the most important shift here is with the October 7th, especially after the first week, Erdogan understand that the current war in Israel was not an ordinary escalation, was not an ordinary, a known limited operation that would end within week or two. Okay, he understood and internalized the fact that Israel is going to destroy Hamas completely. All of this war, if you're gonna look at Benjamin Netanyahu's statements, you're gonna see that Israel's primary objective was to obliterate the Hamas terrorist organization, right? And of course, we cannot forget about kidnapped Israeli hostages. But make no mistake, you can understand that this is a very right-wing government, and their primary goal was to destroy Hamas. So, as a person who sees himself as the leader of the Sunnis, as the grandchildren of the Ottoman sultans, he cannot live with the consequences of a total war that he cannot do. He had to do something. Okay, he therefore gradually deteriorated the relationship with the state of Israel in a gradual manner. And this is very important for his own legacy. This is very important for his public approval at home. Whenever he's scolding an Israeli official, or he's shouting or criticizing or giving a very, harsh speech against the state of Israel, on the other day or two or three, you're gonna see a rise in his public approval at home. Okay, so this is a very good, public relations machine that can be used by him, and especially by him, because all of his rivals are very seen as freshmen next to him when it comes to criticizing Israel, because he's doing it in a very authentic Islamist manner. Okay, so when the Turkish secular party is doing that, such a criticism, it's like a fake thing. You want the original product, and you don't want the fake one. So I know that it's weird, but this is, unfortunately, is not very rational. Okay, this is not something rational that we can say, okay, this is this can bring Turkey A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and Turkey would be benefited from it. No, Hamas cannot provide anything concrete to Turkey other than Islamic fundamentalism, and it would gravely would harm Turkey's reputation in the West. Okay, so I'm very skeptical. Maybe you can tell me what Hamas can contribute to Turkey in terms of economy. Can they do something? No. Even because of this close relationship with Hamas, Turkey lost a the joint trade volume with the state of Israel, approximately, if I'm not mistaken, $9.5 billion. They say, no, we don't want. Why? Because it's Israel. This is insane. You cannot rationalize this decision in Western eyes. You can only take this kind of a decision with your heart and not with your brain.
So are his moves with Hamas part of a larger strategy to um, to employ Sunni jihadists across the region? Because he has backed Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, and so that raises the question: is Hamas just one piece of a larger strategy? And what does he hope to gain by? Same question, really. What does he hope to gain by backing Hayat Tahrir al-Sham? And
Okay.
they are Al-Qaeda offshoots.
Okay. Again, that's a great question. And here I would have to refer to Turkey's Sunni identity. Okay. We all know that Mr. Erdogan is also adopting a policy, a worldview called neo-Ottomanism, which means that he is trying to revive the influence of the Ottoman Empire in the same hinterland that once upon a time the Ottoman Empire ruled. Okay, it means that in Caucasia, Middle East, North Africa, and Balkans. Okay, and of course in the Eastern Mediterranean. So the most important component of this empire was not the Turkish ethnicity, but was the Islam religion. Okay. So in this regard, he sees Islam as an important source to multiply his influence, his political influence. When he's taking Islam and he's going into the field, he sees that many people, even if they are not Turks, okay, let's say Arabs, like in Syria, they would follow him if they would be supported by Turkey. Okay, so when we are looking at the Middle East, we cannot divorce from the Middle Eastern history. Turks, they conquered this land and they lived, all of the people in the region lived under the Ottoman flag for 402 years. 402 years of domination. Okay, so now when he is looking at the Russian presence or the Iranian presence or an Alawite government in Syria, he sees these entities as artificial, temporary entities that should be eradicated from the region. Okay, therefore, with the Arab Spring, he came to the conclusion that this is a golden opportunity to Sunnify, if I may, if there is such a verb in English, to make Middle East Sunni again. Okay, we all know that 75% of Syria is composed of the Sunnis. Okay, and we had there a minority government. So when we had this Arab Spring, Mr. Erdogan has turned into a knight of the democracy and asked Assad to have elections. Why he asked Assad to have elections? Because he wanted to get rid of Assad in the ballot box. Okay, since he saw that Assad is not going anywhere, so he began to provide ammunition and logistics to these Sunni terrorists, right? Sunni extremists, so that they could get rid of Assad. Okay, so in this regard, he did not pay any attention whether these are Jabhat al-Nusra people, whether they are Hayat Tahrir al-Sham people, or Al-Qaeda, or Daesh. He is looking at the bottom line. And the bottom line is to overthrow this government. And thanks to this common denominator of Sunnah, bringing Turkey back into Syria. Okay, when we are looking at the Iranian presence in the Middle East, in Iraq and in Syria, this is something super new in the Middle Eastern terms. because of the war that took place between the Ottomans and the Safavid Iranian Empire in 1514, okay, 1514, 1514, the Persians, the Iranians, could not penetrate into Anatolia, okay, and later the Turks, thanks to that particular war, they stopped the Iranian Shiite penetration in Anatolia. And after 2 years, in 1516, they overthrew the Mamluk Empire and they controlled the whole Middle East, and they declared the domination of the Sunni Islam in all the Middle East. So the fact that now Iran is infiltrating into Iraq and Syria, this is Turkey's backyard, for God's sake. Turkey is considered as the successor state of the Ottoman Empire. So Turkey, what Turkey is doing, Turkey is resetting the Middle East to its factory settings, okay? And Turkey sees itself as the ultimate producer and ultimate owner of this region because of this 400 years of domination. Okay, and therefore, Turkey's primary agenda is not supporting terrorists, but if these terrorists are Sunnis, so maybe since we cannot find any other Sunnis in the region that we should support, then we have no other choice, but we have to support them. Okay, and long story short, bottom line, today, what we are seeing in Syria is this. Turkey supported the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and also the Free Syrian Army, and the rest is history. Now Turkey has turned into the key country in Syria, also for Syria's reconstruction, also for providing, ammunition and rebuilding the reformation of the Syrian army, etc. So,
if Erdogan's goal was to reestablish Sunni in Syria, it appears he got his way because the interim president is former Abu Muhammad al-Jalani, right? He was just selected as interim president.
yeah.
When Jonathan Shanzer was on this briefing a couple weeks ago, I asked him if al-Jalani, who shed his nom de guerre and now goes by Ahmed Shara.
Ahmed Ashara.
Ashala, thank you.
Ashara,
I asked him, I kind of joked and said, is he Syria's version of James Madison?
Oh.
Or is this an act? And I'd like to get your thoughts here. Is he legitimate? Will he be a reasonable president for Syria and the broader Middle East? Or is he likely to revert and embrace jihadism?
Okay.
So,
what a compliment to Ahmed Ashara if you're comparing him with the founding fathers
it was a question.
of the United States. Please. Okay. So look, this guy, as far as I understand, is a very pragmatic guy, and he understands that acting like the leader of HTS, of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, is something else. And since he won the war, maybe by accident, but he won the war because thanks to the war in Ukraine, and thanks to the war in Lebanon, so Russia and Hezbollah, they weakened significantly. So they took the opportunity, and it was a miracle, like a Hanukkah miracle. Okay, so they just won the war. But the thing is, I think in the very beginning, he tended to act like al-Julani as he knew. But later, the director of the Turkish intelligence, Ibrahim Kalın, paid a visit, the first ever visit of a foreign country in the aftermath of the revolution in Syria. And after that particular visit, in a very miraculous way, the same al-Julani was turned into Ahmed Ashara with a suit and a tie. Hallelujah. We have now a statesman here. Okay, and the good guy, the jihadist went, disappeared, faded away, evaporated, what you would like to name. Okay, and instead now we have a brand new statesman in Syria that it is willing to work with the Europeans, erecting Christmas trees at the heart of Damascus, of course, with the riflemen to guard the tree, right? We also saw the German foreign minister paid a visit to Damascus. Okay, he did not shake hands with the German foreign minister because she's a right? She's a female foreign minister. Long story short, I think the most important decision that was taken here to legitimize Mr. al-Julani was taken by the American administration, that they removed the price upon his head just a day or 2 days before Turkey's foreign minister paid a visit, again, a very historic visit to Damascus. There he was greeted by Julani or by Ahmed al-Shara like a real statesman, like we have the flags in the background, we are shaking hands, like, I mean, if they would like to, if they would like to persuade the Europeans, maybe the Europeans want to be persuaded to get rid of their own Syrian immigrants. But I'm very have question marks. I am very skeptical that the same migrants, the same immigrants, refugees would be ready to go back from Berlin, from Paris, from Brussels, back to Damascus. I don't think that they will go. If I was a Syrian refugee, I would do everything possible to remain in the European continent. For God's sake, why should I go back to Syria only because of this clown Julani, right? So I think al-Julani is the same al-Julani, but his masters. Okay, I'm tagging Mr. Julani as the new governor of the Ottoman province of Syria. I am not convinced that he is a leader of an independent country. Okay, this so-called independent country has no army. All of the conventional army of this new Syria was obliterated thanks to the good work of the Israeli Defense Forces. Within 3 days, all of the army was eradicated. Okay, so they deeply need Turkey's assistance to have once again a proper conventional army. And only recently, 3 days ago, a delegation from the Turkish Defense Ministry, they paid a visit there in Damascus, and they signed agreements that they are going to provide them necessary assistance, training, etc., etc. I'm not going to be very much surprised if they are going to inaugurate in the very near future new army bases as well. According to the Turkish press, there are some rumors, very credible rumors that Turkey will going to inaugurate 2 different army bases there. Turkey is also going to launch a very important infrastructure projects. Nowadays they are making the plans of paving new railways from Istanbul to the city of Damascus, which is the revival of the Hejaz railway of the Ottoman times. They are going to pave new highways, and they are going to provide a new infrastructure for the mobile phones. They are going to provide new radars, antennas for the airports. They are going to repair the Aleppo and the Damascus airports. They are also saying that they are going to sign a maritime delimitation agreement with the new Syrian government. Of course, this will come at the expense of the legitimate rights of Republic of Cyprus. Republic of Cyprus. Yeah, sorry.
I want to pause you there for a second.
Apologies.
Well, we sort of departed some of the risks that you were raising. I want to make sure that we touch on sort of the downstream effects of what's taking place in Syria to the consequences to both Israel and Jordan. So on both Jordan and Israel's northern border, we have HTS. You mentioned it was former Jabhat al-Nusra or Nusra Front. Either case, they're affiliates of al-Qaeda. We have other al-Qaeda linked groups that are there. We have disenfranchised insurgency groups that are in southern part of Syria. You mentioned that now this Syria is going to be, in essence, a governorship for Erdogan. Erdogan in July said the following, and I think this is the first part just sets up my question here. He said, we must be very strong so that Israel can't do these ridiculous things to Palestine. Just like we entered Karabakh, just like we entered Libya, we might do similarly to them. I'd like to get your thoughts on what that means and what do you think the consequences having these radical groups on Jordan's and Israel's northern borders means to Israel and Jordan?
Okay, again, a very good question. Unfortunately, we cannot say that, we cannot just laugh and pretend nothing was said here. At the end, the person who made this statement is Turkey's president, and he enjoys full jurisdictional powers. He is not a symbolic person. He has political responsibilities. And he said that this sentence in a political party event, in his party event in northern Turkey. And as you mentioned, he said, as the way we acted in Nagorno-Karabakh and in Libya, we also may act against the state of Israel. So let's analyze what the Turks did in Nagorno-Karabakh and Libya, okay? When we are looking at these two venues, we see that the Turks dispatched their UAVs, Bayraktar UAVs. I assume that many of our audience are familiar with these UAVs. They are frequently used in the war of Ukraine against the Russians, but not only that, in Armenia, in Libya, and in the cases of Armenia and Libya, this particular UAV made history because thanks to this involvement, thanks to Turkey's Bayraktar's involvement, also Azerbaijan, and also the government of national accord in Western Libya, they could basically inflict very important damages to the Libyan National Army, vis-a-vis also against Armenians. Long story short, of course, in case of Azerbaijan, Israel also supported Azerbaijan, and in the Azerbaijani victory also, we know that there is a very big share of the Israeli weaponry. But not only that, also we have to say that the Turkish weaponry, especially the Bayraktar UAVs, made a very important difference. And besides that, when it comes to Libya, Turkey sent to Libya its ghost ships. I strongly suggest you, after this briefing, go onto Google. On Google, please write BBC Africa, Turkey ghost ships. It's a 40 minutes documentary. Please watch it and you're gonna understand what I mean by that. Turkey dispatched many different ships, ghost ships, that they turned off their radars in the vicinity of Libya. In the beginning, they are, of course, declaring some other destinations like Tunisia. But when they reach to Libya, they are turning off their radar and they are going to the ports of Tripoli or to Misrata, and then they embarked and they provided the heavy weaponry, including armored vehicles, including like anti-air missile systems, etc., to the belligerent forces. Okay, so what we can understand from here, what kind of a conclusion we can draw from these two different examples? Turkey may not engage in a direct war with the state of Israel, but may provide necessary ammunition or necessary, equipment so that the other belligerents may engage a war against the state of Israel. And you know, Gaza Strip is isolated, so this is very much unlikely that may happen in Gaza. But unfortunately, we cannot say such a thing when it comes to Lebanon or Syria. Okay, that's why this is a huge headache for the state of Israel. Israel is not looking for another confrontation, of course, not with Turkey. Israel has no problems with Turkey. We have proper relations with this strong country since 1949, and we cherish this important relations because we never declared hostilities against each other. And Israel needs more enemies. Israel needs more friends, but not more enemies. Okay, again, I'm saying once again, Israel needs more friends, but not more enemies. So we should do everything possible to not to turn this country into a hostile state like Iran, but we are not naive. Israel is not a naive country. Therefore, Israel should be alert and it has to open her eyes, and you know it has to protect its ultimate interests. Nobody is looking for a friction with Turkey, but unfortunately, the current situation in Syria is very fragile. Before, we had no common ground to engage in a friction with the Turks. The only area was the Eastern Mediterranean. It was the sea. But now we are seeing the Turkish influence inland on Israel's border with Syria. So this is very complicated. Let us all hope that this was only a propaganda rhetoric to receive more public approval at home and not anything not further than that. But again, since we are talking about a country's president with all jurisdictional rights, and unfortunately, we cannot say that no, nothing was said and everything will be fine. Unfortunately, we cannot say such a thing. We are not naive, and we are living in the Middle East. And if you will not be alert, if you are not going to be aware of the things of your surroundings, so you would pay a very hard price. We all saw what happened in October the 7th.
So I'm going to get back to that with one of our donors' questions. But first, I'm going to offer an ELNET commercial. And today, like the previous weeks, I'm going to recommend everybody join us at the ELNET International Policy Conference. It is May 18th through 20th in Paris. This is an intimate conference, unlike any other. You will have the opportunity to interact and build connections with world leaders and VIPs. You will engage with Arab leaders and civilians in furtherance of the Abraham Accords, an effort ELNET has been pursuing with European countries for many years. And you will assemble with others in a sign of solidarity and strength with those who believe in a strong Europe-Israel relationship. The early bird pricing has been extended to February 17th. So I hope you will take advantage of that opportunity. Go to our website, become a Diplomacy Club member, and join us in Paris on May 18th for the ELNET International Policy Conference. All right, so back to a question from Pamela Rose here in South Florida. And it does extend a little bit the discussion we were just having about his ambitions and sort of his effects on Israel's sovereignty, because he made, and his son made, two other statements that are quite disconcerting. So to a large group of his supporters, he responded when they were chanting, "Mr. President, take us to Jerusalem." He said, "Patience brings victory." And then that was in November. In December, just a month later, his son led a huge rally where they were chanting, yesterday Hagia Sophia, today Umayyad Mosque, tomorrow Al-Aqsa. So we have to then question, there's been a consistent drumbeat of perhaps very provocative propaganda here. alluding to the fact that he may have aims on destabilizing Israel to some extent, and does this also back to Jordan. What is his broader strategy? Does he actually expect to create create destabilization
Okay.
beyond Syria and Turkey?
Okay. Again, very good, very professional question. Thank you very much. Look, this particular statement that he said, take us to Jerusalem, and patience brings victory, and what his son did. These are all intentional, very calculated decisions that were taken. His son also organized the same kind of a demonstration also a year before. Also January 1st, 2023, and apologies, 24, and also this year, January 1st, 2025. So when we are looking at the so-called slogan, yesterday Hagia Sophia, today Umayyad, and tomorrow al-Aqsa. Again, we are seeing a very neo-Ottoman slogan, right? Because what happened with Hagia Sophia? Hagia Sophia, when the Turks conquered Constantinople 1453, they turned this church into a mosque. Only after Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, who was the founder of the Republic, has turned the site into a museum, and he revealed the Greek Orthodox icons on the walls, right? So now I'm going to make an archaeological excavation for that particular slogan. Hagia Sophia is against the Greeks. And, in a previous question, we also spoke about the Nagorno-Karabakh, that was the Armenians. And Al-Aqsa Mosque is under the Israeli sovereignty, the Jews. I mentioned here three important communities of the former Ottoman Empire: the Jews, the Armenians, and the Greeks. These are the three important minority groups of the ex-Ottoman Empire. And, also in the modern Turkish Republic, the Jews, the Greeks, and the Armenians are still the remaining minorities. So whenever there is a friction with Greece, Israel, or Armenia, unfortunately, the Turkish public is very sympathetic towards these kind of statements, and they are delighted to see that their leader is slapping the Greeks with Hagia Sophia, or with a dogfight on the Aegean Sea, or on the Aegean Sea itself, with this maritime delimitation agreement, disagreements around the Greek islands. With Armenia, they managed to humiliate the Armenians thanks to the Azerbaijani victory. Of course, I'm not derogating Azerbaijan's victory vis-a-vis Armenia. That's another issue, but I'm only looking at the immediate effects of the war in Nagorno-Karabakh, what happened and how he marketed it towards his people. He humiliated the Armenians, but he has a problem. His humiliation to Greeks and the Armenians, I mean, he is capable of doing it. And in some sense, he is capable of hurting them. But in the case of Israel, thank God, he has not proven anything concrete in his hands other than providing humanitarian aid to the Palestinians. Israeli army, in a very professional way. Of course, I'm not talking about October the 7th, but only the aftermath. Came to its senses, began to function properly, and we restored our deterrence. Also, the Iranians are very much aware of it. Hezbollah terrorist organization is very aware of it. I assume Hamas, despite the fact that they are declaring victory, no matter what happens, they will declare victory. Okay, when you're looking at the ruins of Gaza, If this is a victory, so let them celebrate their victory. Ismail Haniya is gone. Salah Aruri is gone. Muhammad Def is gone. Hassan Nasrallah is gone. All of these arch terrorists are gone. So if this is a victory for them, let them celebrate their victory. So long story short, when we are looking at Mr. Erdogan and the state of Israel, there is an anger on Erdogan's side that unlike the Greeks, unlike the Armenians, he cannot really deliver. He cannot hurt the state of Israel as he really wants. Therefore, until today, we can say these particular statements are only limited within the boundaries of rhetoric. Let us all hope that it will remain as such, because again, we do not need more enemies. Okay, and as an Israeli who speaks Turkish, I can tell you that this is very much disturbing. And here, I only would like to make another important comment. We mentioned Erdogan's son, but also Netanyahu's son made very important comments against the Turks when it comes to the Constantinople of Istanbul. The Turks hate to hear the word Constantinople. For them, it's a Byzantinian support, etc. Okay, so Erdogan's son versus Benjamin Netanyahu's son. So maybe we are even now.
All right, so we're running out of time. I'm going to try to sneak in two questions, and then I'm going to turn it over to Tom Flesch, our chair, to offer some closing remarks. So if you can give us kind of quick responses. The first one is, are there certain steps that Europe can take to help contain Turkey? That's the first question.
Again, please.
Are there certain actions that European countries can take to help contain Turkey?
Okay, so in a very short answer, I don't think that the Europeans' hands are superior. I think that Turkey's hands are superior vis-a-vis the Europeans because of the existence of the Syrian refugees, because of the Turkish very deep influence in Syria. I really don't think that the Europeans can have a leverage on Turkey unless they are going to impose sanctions against Turkey, which is very unlikely because, for instance, Turkey is considered as a very important trade partner for Germany, for instance. If you cannot persuade Germany in the European Union, you cannot take a very credible decision, right? So we are done. So do not expect something concrete from the Europeans. Unfortunately, I very respect the European Union. I love Europe, but love is something else. Politics is something else. If you are asking me, unfortunately, we will not be able to see any kind of a leverage, a European leverage on Turkey, because they are not trying to tempt Turkey even with this membership, the so-called membership, right? Turkey's admission to Europe. Who believes in it? No one is believing in it because the Turks are Muslims and Europeans are Christians, and we are done. Okay, let us not lie to each other. We are intelligent enough. You are very intelligent. I am intelligent. Okay, maybe now we should not be very much modest on this issue because it's crystal clear. Okay, otherwise we're gonna lie to each other.
Okay, and the second question in this grouping is from John Mirish. He wants to know if the legacy of Ataturk is dead.
It's not dead. Okay, it's not dead, but unfortunately diminished very much. The country is not very secular anymore, and he is still there and very much respected by many people as a war hero, but his political views, especially secularism, is not very much embraced by the majority of the Turkish people. Turkish people have turned into conservative constituency and right-wing constituency who are very much identifying themselves with the Ottoman past. So, when you read the Ottoman history, it's much more glorious, much bigger, and maybe you cannot blame many people, but this is very unfortunate because Mustafa Kemal Atatürk was a unique leader who who took Turkey from its ashes like a phoenix. Turkey was born from its ashes, and it turned into a civilized, Western-friendly nation. And unfortunately, what we are seeing today is, the direction is not very, let me say, pushing me to be optimist, unfortunately.
Okay.
It's not, again, his legacy is still there, very much diminished, not faded away completely, but this is not the same Turkey that I grew up in 1980s, 1990s. No, it's very, very, very different.
Thank you for that. Hay, it's been great having you and speaking with you on this. A ton of information. We have more questions. I'm sorry I couldn't get to everybody's. I have a whole list of questions myself. I mean, we could go on for hours to have this discussion. Thank you, everything you provided today. I hope everybody benefited. I'd like to turn the floor over to Tom Flesch, ELNET, Chairman of the Board.
Thank you very much, Mark. Doctor, very inspiring insights. I just want to make a quick couple comments. Time is short. First of all,
Thank you very much.
About the upcoming conference. Those who have been participating in the past, this one coming up is going to be a little bit different because we have an extraordinary lineup of people who are presenting that, quite frankly, we're even amazed that we have some of these people who want to participate and address our audience. So if you haven't been, it's going to be surprisingly good, because it's always good anyway. And if you haven't, it's a good time to start. So I encourage everybody, as Mark indicated. The other thing, I guess the takeaway from what you're saying is the phrase, Israel needs to keep Turkey as a friend and not as an enemy. And those are the key things. The takeaway is just don't create another enemy. And what you need to do is still in the self-interest of Israel, but make sure that you maintain some kind of dialogue and open communication as friends. And that's my takeaway from what you were saying. And that's
Precise.
maybe as good as it gets today.
Precise. Thank you very much for having me once again on this distinguished platform. Thank you.
It's an honor. Thank you very much for
Thanks again, Hay. Everybody, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good night from Israel.
Good night.
Okay.
Laila Tov.
Laila Tov.
Am Israel High.
Am Israel Chai.